Chapter 19.1. Johann realized this immediately upon seeing them. They were dressed too differently from those in the fiefdom. For one, none of them wielded long swords. A long sword is essentially a two-handed weapon. Its use makes defense difficult due to the challenge of handling a shield, and it's complex to master. Unless trained professionally in a fencing school or a swordsmanship guild, there was no particular reason to use a long sword. If a long weapon was desired, a spear was better, and if a sword was preferred, a short sword with a shield was more convenient. Except for spears, mercenaries typically preferred to carry a weapon with a shield. There were a few mercenaries in the Wolves of Arc 10 who used long swords, indicating their high skill level. But the mercenaries before him were definitely not the Wolves of Arc 10. Of course, that didn't mean he could stop. Johann charged at the closest one. The darkness and the focus on the hilltop meant his approach went unnoticed until he was right upon them. Ah! The man tried to defend himself with his shield, putting force into it. The large round shield was effective in blocking the direction of an attack just by holding it. Unless the opponent was Johann. Johann responded simply and effectively. When Johann kicked the shield, it splintered and flew backwards. Despite being sturdily made of thickly layered wood, it was powerless against his immense strength. Who? Johann was slightly surprised. He hadn't expected the shield to fly away like that. However, his body moved naturally. He aimed for the neck of his off-balance opponent and stabbed. Blood spurted with a gurgle. What the heck is this guy? The fallen opponent was holding a mesa, a type of thick single-edged sword. Rusty and with a barely sharp edge, it was still useful for throwing. Johann quickly threw it at another advancing enemy, who recoiled in shock, raising his shield. One step. Johann closed the distance with a simple forward step, not a special maneuver from the Kegel school, but combined with his strength, it was formidable. The opponent swung a mace in panic. Johann deflected its trajectory with his sword, then struck off the man's hand and delivered a fatal blow, splitting his body in one stroke. Johann sensed something odd. The longsword was too easily wielded. While the longsword wasn't blunt, it wasn't usually honed to such sharpness, as over-sharpening could damage it. It was sharp enough to cut a person, but not to split someone like cutting butter. In the dim light, the dark blade seemed to absorb the blood, revealing inscriptions in an ancient imperial language. It was a fitting sword for Karamov, known for destroying noble houses and taking their seal rings. Johann clicked his tongue. He knew it was a master sword, but this made it even more awkward to use. Johann picked up the opponent's shield and mace. After the surprise attack killed two, the enemies rushed to kill Johann. An arrow flew from a distance. Johann, without blinking, blocked it with the shield. It was too dark to see, but he sensed it. There was never talk of such a guy existing. Upon hearing those words, Johann became certain. These guys weren't here to target me after all. It was he who felt the sting. Indeed, there was no reason for them to have pursued Johann in that situation. Neither was reconciliation possible in these circumstances. And Johann was not so kind as to let someone who was trying to kill him go. Come at me! Johann let out a short battle cry and charged. The light revealed Johann's equipment. His stature and gear made the mercenaries flinch. The first to die was the one wielding a spear. The long weapon was troublesome. Johann charged foolishly, parried the spear with his shield, and swung his mace. Had Kegel seen it, he would have lamented. But Johann and the mace were excessively well matched. The shorter range and fewer variations made it easier to handle. Given Johann's physical abilities, there was no need to resort to swordplay. You monster! A short sword swung at his waist, but Johann preemptively collided to defend. The opponent's arm broke, positioning his head for an easy strike. Once more. With a dull sound, the opponent fell. The enemies panicked as a madman broke their formation. Only 4 had died, but the momentum was terrifying. None of the mercenaries were prepared to die for their mission. Attack! Goran quickly shouted. Now was the time to strike, as the enemy was recoiling. Goran's mercenaries charged with battle cries. Even though Johann was difficult to surround, he found it easier now. He inhaled briefly and charged. One arrow was easily blocked with his shield. Chapter 19.2. As Johann advanced, swinging his mace, 3 fell, blood spraying. A blow to the torso was severely damaging. Johann smiled contentedly. The weapon, found on the road, was useful. As more than half fell, the remaining mercenaries began to flee without orders. Johann was puzzled. On second thought, one of the men he killed, who wielded a short sword, did seem like a captain. Johann quickly pursued, striking the leg of the furthest man. No need to capture all. Just enough to interrogate. Better than just one. Johann broke the fallen man's leg, more painfully for being an archer. Ah! As Johann chased, the mercenaries threw their weapons and fled, shivering at the thought of him following. He managed to catch another. As the opponent drew a dagger, Johann slapped both cheeks. "You bastard!" The opponent, still venomous, continued to talk. Johann broke one arm to prevent mischief, then the other as the eye still showed life. Then the opponent cried out. "Ah, my lord! I was wrong. Realize your mistake." "Yes. Yes. Deeply." Unlike other mercenaries who cursed or acted rough, the impassive breaking of each arm was terrifyingly filthy. "This brat! How dare you challenge us?" Enraged, Gamson tried to strike down the fallen one, but Goran stopped him. "Why are you stopping me? He's not the one you caught. Rookie. But we can kill those who attacked us right away, can't we?" "I won't stop you, try it if you want." Meanwhile, Johann returned. Johann asked Gamson, looking at him. "What's going on?" Nothing." Gamson stumbled back. Seeing Johann covered in blood, he lost his nerve. In one hand, Johann even held the head of a twitching mercenary. "You've all worked hard." "No. Thanks to you, Johann Nim, we were able to save our lives." "Thank you so much." Goran bowed respectfully, his gratitude sincere. As a wandering knight, there were some doubts about his abilities, but the recent scene cleared them all. Indeed, a knight is a knight. He rushed into battle, hardly armored, and butchered several men in the blink of an eye, a chilling sight. "What are we going to do with this guy?" "Take him to the city and sell him as a slave, right? Since we're on our way there anyway." "Not a bad idea, but first, I have questions. We need to find out who hired this guy." "What?" "He's just a bandit. We can take on bandit requests too." Johann called out to Eldons. Eldons, who was hiding and trembling between the carriages, stuck his head out. Is it over?" "It's over, you can come out now." Eldons came out with a sigh. He had no idea what was going on. They say words have consequences, but the bandit bastards really. Johann scanned Eldon's expression. He didn't seem to be lying. It was clear that they weren't targeting Johann. And there was no one who would hire mercenaries to target those seemingly worthless mercenaries. Only the merchant was left? "Hey! Did you catch the two of them?" "The knight caught them. Let's take them and sell them as slaves. These trashy bastards. How dare they rob? They will be cursed by God. Let's hear their story first." Johann lifted his mace over his shoulder and asked. "Who ordered you?" We don't know anything." As soon as the words were out, Johann swung his mace. The broken knee shattered. "Ah. Did you think I caught you to hear you say you don't know anything? Spit it out. Spit out the answer I want." The mercenaries swallowed their saliva at Johann's appearance. He looked to be around 20 years old, but his flawless appearance was no joke. They wondered what kind of family he had trained in. "If you don't want to live as a cripple for the rest of your life, spit out the answer. Now. 1. 2. The captain knows. He just said to rob that merchant guy." So. The captured one shouted out in a hurry. Then everyone's eyes turned to Eldons. "Milord Eldons. What is this? You didn't say anything like this." "I don't know anything about this either." "Don't tell me you tried to save money. If I knew someone was after me, I would have hired more mercenaries. Why would I gamble with my life?" Eldons argued as if he was frustrated. Goran frowned but accepted it. "I understand." The reward that Eldons offered was not bad. 3 Empire coins per day and 1 Empire silver coin every time a fight broke out. 12 coins were worth 1 silver coin, so it was a decent job for escorting a merchant. Eldons was not a fool who would cut corners on his life. He would have hired more mercenaries if he knew someone was after him. A seasoned merchant wouldn't risk his life for a few pennies. Chapter 20.1. Thanks to Eldon's, Goran was convinced. It was a situation that might have aroused suspicion had it not been for his usual behavior. Where did the information leak from? Did you buy something expensive? No. Not really. Just common items. Though they could be sold for a good price if taken to the market. Barley and wheat bought from a town in the northern part. These were goods to be sold or traded in the town of Rutsbeck. It was here that he had learned that barley and wheat were currently fetching high prices in Rutsbeck. Additionally, animal hides acquired from a town in the south. Fortunately, he managed to obtain well-tanned bear hides from a hunter. Though costly, they were a gift worthy of the nobles who favored his trading house. Is that all? Yes. Doesn't seem worth attacking over. Anything else? Another reason for coming here. Well, there were a few letters to be delivered to a trading house branch in the southern city. What's in the letters? I don't know the contents. Tampering with sealed letters was an act that could dishonor the trading house. And they weren't even important letters. If they were, they wouldn't have been entrusted to me. As Count Jarpen's realm grew uneasy and signs of fiefdom wars loomed, Eldon's planned to rest after this trading trip. An experienced merchant didn't abruptly cease visits even when war seemed imminent. He informed the towns he owed favors to in advance and conducted his final trades. A merchant who left without a word couldn't be trusted. Relationships forged with each town were sometimes more important than life itself. Johann looked at Eldons, who seemed very anxious about an unknown grudge. Can't help it now. I'll assist you. Really? Helping someone in danger is what a knight should do. Thank you. Johann Nim. Eldons was both surprised and pleased by Johann's words. Goran and the mercenaries were shocked. The idea of helping without monetary gain was incomprehensible to them. By helping Eldons and entering the city, the Kartana Merchant Guild would vouch for Johann's identity and assist him. The trading house wouldn't just let go of someone who helped a guild member. Especially if that someone was a skilled knight. The trading house would be even more eager to get closer. Regardless of Johann's endeavors, it was beneficial to be friendly with influential powers. After all, there were limits to what one could do alone in this place. I will take these fellows with me. His leg is broken, can we really take him? Ah. Goran looked slightly embarrassed. He had declared in front of Johann that he would definitely take them, but then realized it was too much. But aren't they your spoils of war, Sir Knight? They are my spoils, so I must take responsibility. Let's not just abandon them. And no. The two mercenaries screamed. With a broken leg, what were they supposed to do here? Though it was a plain, there was a forest nearby. Please show mercy, sir. We won't do such things again. Mercy? You want me to kill you? Johann gripped his mace. Being torn apart alive by beasts might be better than a clean death. No. That's not what I mean. Shut up. If you don't want to die here. Goran's mercenaries roughed up the attackers. Without Johann, they would have been executed immediately. No mercenary would let go of someone who attacked first. The rest of the spoils will be turned into money and shared upon reaching the city. Really? It wasn't a solo fight. What would have been obvious from a high-ranking person became generous and merciful. The mercenaries brightened up at Johann's words. It was an unexpected bonus. Chapter 20.2. Goran. Mr. Khan. What's the matter? The newcomer is a bigger mess than I thought. Is it that bad? Goran frowned. Khan had known Goran for quite some time and didn't take his words lightly. I want to get rid of him. He seems like he could cause trouble if left alone. It's a bit difficult right now. Eldons would not like it. It's a time when even one person is needed. Didn't you see the fight earlier? When a fight broke out, he ran away and then sneakily came back. I saw it. But even if we have to punish him, it should be done in the city, not before the work is finished. It would only tarnish our reputation. It's better to monitor him until we return and then deal with him afterwards. Damn it. Let's do that. Where did you find such a guy? Next time bring someone experienced. No matter how cheap they are. Understood. Fortunately, no more fights occurred after that. 2 days later, the group was able to reach Rutsbeck. It's Rutsbeck. Can we go in right away? It's fine. I know the village chief and many of the villagers. The 8th fiefdom, where a feudal lord like a knight lived and governed directly, was an exception. Usually, nobles didn't live in their fiefdoms. They sent representatives to collect taxes when due. In such cases, the town's villagers managed things among themselves. The village chief, elected from among the wealthy serfs, handled major and minor matters, managing the town. Though it might seem trivial to modern eyes, for merchants, being on good terms with the village chief was crucial. Any issues with the chief could complicate matters. Have you been here before? I have. They make quite good beer. Khan replied. Johann laughed. I like the sound of that. Anything else? It's better not to eat the food from the inn. Ask the brewery to bring something for you. Just give them a coin, and they'll bring something decent along with the beer. I'll keep that in mind. Thanks. Johann said this and entered the town. The townspeople tensed up at the different atmosphere presented by the mercenaries. Murmurs were heard. Though they tried to whisper, Johann heard everything. He shrugged his shoulders and tied his horse in the stable. As he entered the inn, the innkeeper hurried out. Welcome. In 8th fiefdom, the innkeeper was unfriendly. To be precise, he was often absent. He had another job as his livelihood and only went to the inn to collect money when travelers came. He didn't care much about them, so he was rude. But here in Rutzbeck, the inn was decent enough. The innkeeper didn't show any surprise when he saw a foreigner. Are you by chance a Sir Knight? Johann of the Yates family. More importantly, have knights ever visited here? Occasionally, yes. Shouldn't you, a knight, also stay? If he were a noble with money and power, he might rent a house from the village chief or choose a pleasing one in the town, but as a mere wandering knight, he had no choice but to stay at an inn. Last year, a few knights did stop by. They were here to participate in the tournament. Are you interested in the tournament as well, sir? No. I am just passing through. Johann handed over half a coin of the Empire's currency along with his horse. It was enough for lodging. If you wish to have a meal. I'm fine without a meal. At Johann's words, the innkeeper's face was tinged with disappointment, evidently hoping to charge more. Entering his room, Johann collapsed onto the bed. It wasn't very soft, but it was enough. He hadn't properly relaxed since escaping from the fiefdom. I'll think about the future plans after a good sleep, thought Johann as he closed his eyes and drifted into sleep. Is that knight really so extraordinary? Ah, indeed he is. Upon hearing Eldon's words, village chief Atanka wore a disbelieving expression. I've never seen a decent person among wandering knights. Those who came last year were a mess too. Brimming with arrogance, those without a family name. Do you know what happened to them? Were they beaten and driven away? Yes. I tried to tolerate it, but they just crossed the line. Real nobility would have restrained themselves for fear of consequences, but a familyless wanderer knight was neither noble nor anything else. Just a mercenary proclaiming himself a knight. Such men, thinking too highly of themselves, demanded the village chief's house, free food and drink, and women, pushing the town's patience to its limits. 8th fiefdom only had a few slaves, servants, and family members as soldiers, but Rutzbeck was different. It had its own militia. The town's spirited youth, toughened by farming, overwhelmed the untrained wandering mercenaries. This man is different. He comes from a genuine knight's family. And his skills are exceptional too. It was common for knights from noble families to be strong, but it was rare for someone as young as Johann to be so accomplished. Eldons thought it only possible with talent and rigorous training. Really? Why is he wandering alone then? It was unusual for nobility, even younger sons, to travel alone. It wouldn't be strange to have a servant or two. Even self-proclaimed mercenary knights brought followers, calling them servants. There must be circumstances within his family. Whether a declining or a fallen family. Eldons implied subtly, and the village chief understood immediately. There was no need to openly criticize nobility in their absence. Where there are no tigers, foxes reign. In places not directly governed by nobility, the village chief's authority was significant. However, this was only within the village. Even a mere official sent by a noble could make the village chief fawn obsequiously. The chief was well aware of his position. Political acumen was essential to be the chief of such a large town. Chapter 21.1 If you're that kind of knight, we'd like you to stay in our town. Why so? You know, there's been some ominous rumors going around lately. The lord of the town of Rutzbeck is Count Jarpen. Naturally, after Count Jarpen lost several battles, rumors began to circulate in his fiefdom. With the increase in rogues and the count unable to help, the townspeople had to form a vigilante group to fend them off. The young men of the town were enthusiastic even with just a spear in hand, but the village chief knew well. It would be difficult to fend off a proper attack with them. Why would nobles hire mercenaries at a high cost? It was impossible to fight well just by giving a spear to those who had never fought before. They might be full of courage in their own town, but they would collapse immediately under a real attack. This large town had been safe so far because it was difficult for runaway mercenaries to target, but what would happen in the future was unknown. If the number of mercenaries increased, or worse, if they settled nearby, it would be a headache. It would be difficult to subdue them with a vigilante group. Ha! A tankanim. Of course, that would be nice, but it would be too much for Sir Knight to stay here. Why, if you get attached, anywhere can be home. We have many young women in our town. They were laughing, but inside, they were cursing each other. But Atanka was at a disadvantage. He also thought that the knight would not stay here unless necessary. There were few reasons to stay. But if the knight stayed, it would be a great help. To protect the town, they had to hire mercenaries, but the problem was whether they could trust these mercenaries. It was common for mercenaries brought into the town to betray and turn into rogues. They had to hire trustworthy mercenaries, but they were hard to find and expensive. But if it was the knight Eldons mentioned, it was a different story. A nobleman who knows the honor of a knightly family would not betray, and unlike a mercenary, he would not blatantly demand money. Eldons was ridiculous. He explained to avoid misunderstanding because he was a foreigner, but he was harboring an unreasonable desire. The Kartana Merchant Guild always wanted reliable warriors. The Catalian Peninsula had as many battles as the empire or kingdom above the Dwarf Mountains. Independent city-states fought each other, and they also fought with the nobles of the Holy Empire. Small trading companies avoided battles, but large trading companies actively participated in battles. There was nothing more profitable than war. And the most needed thing at such times was military power. It was a chaotic era. The only thing they could trust was military power. Even small towns had to form vigilante groups and hire mercenaries, let alone city guilds. Eldons intended to introduce Johann to the Kartana Merchant Guild. Building a rapport with such a young knight would undoubtedly be helpful in the future. Well, let's save that discussion for later. I heard you brought wheat and barley. How much for a sack of wheat and a sack of barley? Oh, a tankanim, the hardships I've endured. 1 sack of wheat will be 2.5 silver coins, and 1 sack of barley will be 2 silver coins. That's my final offer. 2.5 silver coins. Are you trying to starve our townspeople? What are you talking about? Do you know how high quality this barley is? The brewers from Rutzbeck would gladly pay several times more for it. Rutzbeck's beer was well known in the vicinity. Perhaps they should send someone from the monastery to purchase it. Typically, a full sack of wheat was worth only 1 silver coin. However, merchants didn't often pay the proper price. If you'd consider accepting a currency other than Empire silver coins, I could buy it for 2.5 sacks. Nonsense. Please, a tankanim, don't speak such absurdities. You know how unreliable other currencies have become these days. That Empire Bank, operated under the rules set by dwarf nobility, was quite peculiar. The contents of other currencies could change at any time. There was a reason merchants preferred Empire silver and gold coins. 2 sacks, a tanker. And 1.5 sacks for the barley. That's my final offer. I won't go any lower. Stop groaning. Fine, you've got a deal. That's it. Atanka realized that Eldons wasn't going to budge any further and reluctantly agreed. Eldons might be a bit shrewd, but he could let this one trade slide. After all, this wasn't the only time they'd be dealing with each other. Thank you once again, Atankanim. Eldon smiled and extended his pouch. They both knew what was inside. Atanka returned the smile and shook hands. The townspeople would remain oblivious to these conversations, even in their wildest dreams. Chapter 21.2. This world was one where travel was rare. Most people lived and died in the town or city where they were born. As such, an outsider who came to the town inevitably received a mix of curiosity and caution. Suspicious but wanting to hear news from outside. In this regard, Goran's mercenaries were quite convenient. Since Eldons brought them, they were somewhat trustworthy. The townspeople approached the mercenaries, asking where they were from and how things were around these days. Be careful with your actions, okay? A day or two as a mercenary. Of course, don't worry. Of course, Goran's mercenaries didn't act recklessly. In such a large town, careless behavior could cause trouble. What if they became friendly and got into a fight while drinking? If they couldn't handle it well, their lives would be at risk. In a small town, they might escape, but a large town had its own vigilante group and pride. Being caught or chased would be a big problem. Therefore, experienced mercenaries were cautious in their actions, especially in towns they weren't familiar with. If trouble arose, it would likely be blamed on them. Of course, there were more thoughtless mercenaries in the world. And Gamson was one of them. Where did that bastard Gamson go? He said he was going to drink. Damn it. Okay, we aren't his father, can't watch him all the time. Are you the new mercenary? Yeah. What, do you have a problem? Whoa, calm down. Just curious about what kind of guy the new mercenary is. A young man from the town sat next to Gamson. Gamson recognized him instantly. Young, energetic, full of complaints and greed. The kind of guy scorned in the town for being immature. Hadn't Gamson also run away from the town to become a mercenary? There was only one thing this guy would be curious about, just like Gamson had been. Interested in mercenary work. Thought it might be a good distraction. You buy the beer. Then I'll talk. Gamson returned the same words a mercenary he had met before had said to him. Pretending not to, but the other guy was excited. He would have accepted an offer to work as a mercenary right away. The beer arrived, and they drank it refreshingly. Soon, 2 became 3, and 3 became 4. Rutsbeck was a fairly large town, and there were several hot-blooded guys. So, I dealt with a troll there, and the village folks were so grateful. The nobles said they would report it, even the night dastards came and admired it. Asking how a mercenary caught it. Gamson bragged with a flushed face. In the mercenary group, he was just a low-ranking member often scolded, but here it was different. With every word he said, the young guys looked at him with admiration. Of course, they didn't believe everything, but what did it matter? So? What did they say? Just get the reward, why bother getting involved with nobility? It's damn annoying dealing with them. Do this, do that. Being a mercenary is the best. If you have silver, you won't envy the nobles. Although Gamson would bow down at the opportunity to meet with nobility, he was just posturing. However, it seemed others didn't agree. For everyone, rising in status through the favor of nobility was a dream. But you could even receive a title, like knighthood. What's the use of such titles? Just grab the silver, asshole. At Gamson's words, the young men were infuriated but held back. They were the ones who wanted to hear more. Hey, speaking of which, didn't you say there's a knight in your group? Heard he's a damn good fighter. Yeah, I heard too. Did he slaughter them all by himself? Is that what a real knight does? That wandering knight dastard we had last time was pathetic. That guy is also a wandering knight. Come on, not all wandering knights are the same. His equipment was different. Hey! Do you know why that guy is so strong? Have you seen his gear? His long sword is an amazing famous sword. Like a cow backing into a mouse, Gamson stumbled upon the right answer while belittling Johann. Of course, even if Johann's long sword was a twig, it wouldn't have mattered in killing the attackers, but Gamson couldn't know that. With that sword, even someone like you could kill 2 or 3 mercenaries. That much. It's nonsense. Think about it. How could you fight and win against more than 10 enemies? Is that a normal weapon? Aren't knights trained from a young age for that? One was doubtful, but the rest seemed intrigued by Gamson's words. Man, that sounds like an amazing sword. Should we steal it? Gamson was shocked as he gulped down his beer. Luckily, the other villagers tried to dissuade the one who brought it up. Are you crazy? How would you handle the consequences? Just grab it and run. Weren't you planning to go to the city anyway? You said you didn't want to rot in this town forever farming. If it's such a great famous sword, even selling it would give us a good share. Could it be a famous sword from the ancient empire? Really? Drunk and naive, the youngsters quickly got excited. Gamson was panicked. He wasn't sure whether to dissuade them or not. Gamson, join us. MMME. You know the mercenary business. We can't do it without you in the city. There's a mercenary group here. Who cares about those lousy guys? They're no help anyway. Leave them. Come with us. We're different from those cowards. Chapter 22.1. The lies one tells oneself become a trap. Gamson hesitated, stalling for time. But as he thought about it, he became increasingly drawn to the plan. The atmosphere among the mercenaries wasn't great anyway. Unbeknownst to Gamson, Goran planned to punish him as soon as he returned to the city. The mercenaries were not so lenient as to overlook someone so audaciously climbing the ranks. Although Gamson didn't expect to be punished, he sensed the unfavorable atmosphere. Being treated like a novice and even fighting with the Khan. Perhaps it would be better to make a fortune and flee. If I steal everything I can and flee, how could a mere wandering night dastard catch up? The Yates family wasn't even from around here. While Gamson hesitated, the townspeople had already made a plan. Just pack up and steal the night dastard sword, then run away. What if our families get angry? What if they chase us? We have the vigilantes. At most, they'll curse us and blame us. What can he do? We'll have to ride horses in case he chases us. Let's steal and ride the night dastard's horse. Great! I'll help you out. Gamson made a decision, cheered on by the other youths. That night dastard must have a lot of money. We should steal that too. Who's the lightest among us? The plan was simple. As night fell, the nimble and skilled Buran would pretend to be friendly and enter the inn, heading to the knight's room. Then, he'd open the door and take everything he could, including the sword. Then, he would join the others waiting at the stables and escape the town. Pell and Pra seemed confident, having apparently brought a horse from somewhere. We'll split into pairs on the 2 horses and escape. Let's sell everything in the city and split the money. Gamson's our captain. We trust you. Ha ha ha. Just trust me. Mercenary work isn't easy, but I'll teach you well. Gamson laughed. He could ditch these 3 in the city when the right opportunity arose. The somewhat clever Buran signaled the other 2 with his eyes. Although inexperienced, Buran was cunning. Heading to the city, unknown and unvisited by these novices, was risky. They needed Gamson, even if he was unlucky, as a guide. Wait. I'll go in. Be careful. If you wake the night dastard, we're screwed. Got it, got it. As he casually responded and was about to enter, Gamson grabbed Buran's arm. Answer properly. If we wake the night dastard, we're all in danger. I said I got it, didn't I? And stop acting like a coward. What? This is our town. Even if he wakes up, he can't do much. The youths of the town were reminiscing about a self-proclaimed knight, a wandering mercenary who had visited before. This was their town, and even if they caused trouble, outsiders couldn't complain much. In this world, power was the law. Gamson, naive and inexperienced, couldn't fathom the town folks' absurd thinking. A knight wouldn't dare act recklessly? He couldn't understand their delusion. If the opponent was of noble birth, these mere town folks wouldn't matter, they could be killed on the spot. No noble would stand idle if a serf dared to rise above their station. A vigilante group? What a joke! Any sensible townsperson would kneel at the first sign of a noble's wrath, fearing their entire town could be wiped out if they dared to oppose a noble. What about the owner of this town, the Count? If the Count hears it, he will likely become enraged and stain this town with his weariness. It's absurd that even though this is his own town, the serfs looted the nobility's belongings and fought. That was a disgrace to the nobility. But these fools were saying things like, because this is our town, the knights can't act recklessly, with an arrogant tone. Come on. Captain Gamson. Buran is confident, so he acts like that. If he really wants something, he goes for it. All right, just be really careful. Gamson finished his meal. He had never imagined feeling the same way as a seasoned mercenary like a Khan when he was being addressed by him. Chapter 22.2. Johann opened his eyes. Buran was just about to touch the door with his hand. A beast-like intuition. That intuition instinctively forewarned of danger. Johann, who had woken up, struggled to grasp the situation. He woke up due to an ominous feeling, but it wasn't immediately clear what the situation was. Someone was trying to slide a thin hook through the gap in the door to push the latch open. This was possible because the inn's door was rather flimsy. Johann tensed his body as he quickly ran through thoughts in his mind. He was ready to overpower whoever was entering. The latch slid open, and the door opened. Someone tiptoed in through the darkness, and Johann pounced. The reason the other person couldn't scream was that Johann had hit his solar plexus and grabbed his throat. Baron's face turned pale blue from the suffocating pain, feeling as though his entire body was breaking. Johann quickly threw the man to the ground and firmly subdued him. Then he raised his arm. He could feel the man's joints screaming. "Answer me if you don't want to die." "Aha. Aha. I can't breathe, you bastard." "Who are you?" Johann felt relieved. Seeing the other person, he knew it wasn't an assassin. It couldn't have been this sloppy. But he didn't let his guard down. Being careless just because the other person was struggling would disappoint Kegel. "Answer me." Johann applied more pressure with his arm as Baron gasped for air and spewed curses. The man, in agonizing pain as if his arm was being torn apart, finally spoke. "I am Bone. What's your purpose for coming?" What purpose?" "I just mistook the room, damn it. You thought you'd get away after this." "Ah." Johann dislocated the shoulder joint of the other person. Baron screamed in pain he had never experienced before. Johann stuffed a dirty cloth into Burden's mouth to prevent his screams from leaking out. "I can tell you're underestimating me. A guy who mistook the room and brought tools to pick the lock. Now, I'm going to break your fingers one by one. It would be wise to answer before all 10 are broken. Otherwise, it will be your neck that's breaking." "Ooh." Johann didn't wait for an answer and broke a finger. Then he removed the cloth. The arrogant attitude was gone, and Baron was now a mess of tears and snot, sobbing. "Answer me. If you don't want to die. Please. If you kill me, my family won't stay quiet. We run a mill. Is your father a count? Are you a bastard or something? What does that? Guess not. Save your miller talk for the people of your town. You haven't tasted enough yet." Johann stuffed the cloth back in and broke another finger. And then one more. Mills, grist mills, inns, and such facilities in the town often belonged to the feudal lord. This meant that the townspeople had to pay a separate fee to the lord every time they used these facilities. Such facility owners were naturally appointed with the lord's permission, and the townspeople feared them, even though they resented them. No matter how menial the job, being connected to the lord was a big deal. However, Johann was not deceived. Only the serfs would be fooled by such pretense. In reality, these facility owners never met the nobility. A scribe under the count, a manager under that scribe. That was the limit of whom the serfs could ever see. The manager was just a low-level bureaucrat who came to collect taxes for the fiefdom, but when the manager came, from the village chief to the elders, they fawned over him. Even the loud mill owners or millers trembled before the manager. Of course, Johann, originally a modern man reborn as a noble, wouldn't be frightened by such threats. If the manager came, it was clear whose side he would take. No matter if it was their own town or their own serfs, from a noble's perspective, serfs were not the same as themselves. On the other hand, Johann was a fellow noble. "So, are you ready to talk?" "Why, yes." "Yes. I was trying to steal a sword." "A sword?" "That sword, it looked expensive." Johann was shocked. The sword must be expensive, but it had never been drawn in the town. That meant. "How did you find out?" "That mercenary egged me on." "The one named Gamson." Johann realized the situation had gotten complicated. He had thought it was just a scared thief who had come in alone, but if there was a group, it was a different story. Johann lifted the bellows with one hand and then kicked open the door and ran out. What's this?" the drowsy innkeeper uttered in a panicked voice. Suddenly, there was a loud noise, and the knight who had stayed upstairs came down with Baron. Apparently, Baron had lost his mind and was sobbing with tears. "What happened? Did you help?" "No." When Johann asked threateningly, the innkeeper quickly responded. Living as an innkeeper in the town, the only thing that had grown was his intuition. Realizing the severity of Johann's question, the innkeeper understood that a wrong answer now could really lead to death. Despite the darkness, the innkeeper could see the murderous look in Johan's eyes. He realized his pants were slightly wet. The innkeeper stared at Buren. He couldn't imagine what the hell he'd gotten himself into. "Trust me. Turn on the fire and bring out a torch." "Yes, yes." The kind demeanor Johan showed was merely like a lion briefly wearing a sheep's skin. The innkeeper painfully realized this. Knights were fundamentally predators meant for slaughter. Chapter 23.1. The innkeeper moved desperately with just that one thought in mind, not allowing himself any distractions. He took out some oil, lit a fire, and made a torch, which he handed to Johan. "Carry this and follow me." "Yes." Johan went out armed only with his weapon, not wearing his armor. There was no time to don all his equipment in such a situation. What's going on? What's happening? The other mercenaries who had been sleeping upstairs were also awakened by the commotion and came down. Those who had drunk a lot were still lying down, while those who had drunk less staggered around trying to understand the situation. Johan didn't respond. Explanations could wait. "If I can't catch your gang, your hands and feet will be cut off. Let's go." Gamson was about to make the sharpest decision of his life. Damn, something feels off. It could have been instinct, or fear of Johan. Either way, Gamson's body was screaming. "I need to run away right now." "What's up now?" Buren is really good at this sort of thing. While the remaining two chattered, Gamson crept closer to eavesdrop. He thought he heard something. A loud, thumping noise. "Damn! Good at what? I'm an asshole for trusting these country bumpkins." Feeling goosebumps all over, Gamson ran to where the horses were tied and untied them. Frightened by his actions, Pra and Pell asked, "What are you doing?" "We agreed to wait for Buren." "You guys wait, assholes." There was a noise. If the job was done properly, why would there be a noise? As Gamson shouted in terror, the fear spread to the other two. Despite their trust in Buren, they couldn't ignore Gamson's words. "If you want to live, untie the remaining horses and bring them out." "But if we take them, what about Buren?" "Buren's done for. Figure it out yourself, assholes. I'm getting out of here." There was no reason for Gamson to wait for someone he'd just met. He immediately mounted a horse. Pra, being the smarter of the two, quickly followed suit behind Gamson. "Pell, I'll leave one horse for Buren, so if he shows up, ride out together." Okay." Pra admired his own cunning. He was running away first, but if Buren showed up, he had an excuse. As Pra slowed down the horse by getting on, Gamson cursed inwardly. He wanted to leave Pra behind, but starting a fight here and now would be a bad idea. If he got entangled with Pra and Pell, that night dastard would catch up. Stealing horses from Eldon's or another part of the town felt too risky, but now he regretted not taking that risk. Now they had to escape on a horse together with the night dastard on their heels. Gamson saw it clearly. The light shining through the gaps of the inn in the darkness. "We've been spotted. Damn it. Run. Run, you assholes. The night dastard is chasing us." Gamson was so terrified that he forgot to lower his voice. He used to curse when Johan wasn't around, but now the mere sound of a door opening in the distance was enough to scare him senseless. Gamson and Pra left first, with Fell scrambling onto the horse belatedly. Buren didn't show up, but he had long been forgotten by the three. Run! Run! Lucky for them, Pell was the best horse rider among them and familiar with the geography of the area. Although he started late, it was fortunate that he sped ahead, allowing them to follow without stumbling in the dark. The three thieves desperately ran towards the town entrance. Once past it, the night's darkness would protect them. Chapter 23.2. Johan ran like hell. The notion that big, muscular people are slow was a prejudice. Johan's sprint was fast enough to catch up with the horses. But Johan realized. He could see silhouettes darting through the night, recognizing them as thieves by the sound of horse hooves. His muscles reached their limit from the sprint. Humans couldn't win a long-distance race against horses. They were already far ahead. He might have caught them if he had realized sooner that Buren wasn't alone and dashed out immediately. But now it was too late. No, this was unavoidable. Despite feeling ridiculous, Johan controlled his emotions. It was like an unavoidable accident. How could he have foreseen one of the town folk stealing his horse? It's not like he could sleep hugging his horse. Johann, seizing his mace, threw it with all his might, half relying on luck in the darkness. He couldn't catch them all, but hoped to catch at least one. To show them hell. A heavy sound, followed by a thump, indicated someone had fallen. Johann was surprised to hit at this distance. But the horses didn't stop or change direction. They kept running rhythmically. Approaching, Johann kicked the groaning figure. The torchlight revealed Pra's face, unknown to Johann. Dot slipped away. The fact that he missed the ringleader infuriated Johann the most. He's coming. They're coming. That crazy bastard. Gamson realized that saliva was drooling from his mouth. He was so scared that he couldn't close his mouth. They ran without turning on the lights, but Johann was running towards them with a torch. It was really scary for them. How could a human run the distance so quickly? Gamson turned his head. He saw Pra screaming and falling from behind. Shit! Run! Run, you stupid horse! What's going on? What happened? Asshole! The night dastard is chasing us. Run! If we get caught, we're all dead. Pell realized that his friend had fallen, but now there was nothing he could do. Turning the horse around now would mean death. Pra! Pra! I'll come back to save you later. Shut up and look ahead. A mercenary and a villager thus successfully escaped the town. The turmoil ended and dawn arrived. The atmosphere of the town was gloomy as if something was weighing it down. The village chief, a tanker, was holding his head. These bastards worse than goblins. They should have been punished when they bragged about their well-off homes. They were spared when they caused minor troubles, but now they've caused a major incident. The influential villagers in the town gathered at the village chief's house. News spread fast in such a town. They all had different expressions on their faces. Village chief, we heard that the mercenaries caused trouble. Is that true? How dare they cause trouble in our town? Shouldn't we call the local militia? Who got hurt? Baron and Pra are half dead. The mercenaries have captured them. What? The mercenaries dare. Call the young men of the town right away to take care of this. Shut up! A tanker shouted, punching the floor. The villagers were startled by the unusual behavior of the village chief. Am I the only one understanding the situation here? These assholes. Isn't that too harsh, village chief? Are you siding with the merchant you brought in? You. Try handling this yourself. You seem to be defending your kid who's causing trouble. Do you think this is a usual situation? The opponent is a real knight. And that merchant is from the Kartana Merchant Guild. Do you think this is a matter to be solved with threats? But they're less than 10. Those less than 10 are people who kill for a living. Local militia? Just some guys who've swung sticks a few times. Have they even properly dealt with a goblin? That's too harsh. We've faced mercenaries several times. That's when the mercenaries are at a disadvantage. We have dozens of men, so they didn't want to shed blood rashly. What do you think will happen if we really fight? Even if we catch all of those guys, half of us will die and the rest will flee. And mercenaries are not the issue. If it was just mercenaries, we could have ended this by persuasion or threat. The problem is that there's a real knight among them. Don't you really understand what it means to be up against a noble? At the words of the village chief, the townspeople murmured. The name noble instilled fear in them. However, the gruff owner of the mill, Baron's father, spoke up. So what if it's a wandering knight? There's no need to be so scared of a wandering knight dastard, right? No matter how strong he is, we have numbers. Just scare him off and then talk things over when the manager comes. I'll lead the talk. A tanker inhaled sharply, his face red with anger. He refrained from slapping the man right then, only because a tanker had aged. Had he been younger, he would have done it immediately. How are you going to talk properly? Say that the wandering knight dastard came and caused trouble. What if the knight tells the manager? The manager is friendly with us, surely he'll believe our word, won't he? You mean to say the manager will take our word over that of a noble-born knight dastard? The village chief spoke sarcastically, and the townspeople began to grasp the situation. No matter how they thought about it, something was off. All right, let's say he listens to us. And then the night dastard goes back to his family and tells them about this, and they tell the count. Do you think the manager will still take our side then? Chapter 24.1. That's. Even as the owner of the mill, he couldn't respond affirmatively in this situation. It was too absurd even for him to consider. The mill owner changed the topic. How about we prevent Night Dastard from leaving? Just kill him outright. Gasps emerged among the townspeople. The thought of killing a noble was shocking enough, but the idea of how to kill a knight was even more startling. If things come to that, I'll be sure to give you the honor. A tanker laughed scornfully. Although they were normally friendly, in this situation, there was no greater enemy. What if the knight dies here? What about the other merchants and mercenaries? Them, they too. What if we kill the merchant of the Kartana Merchant Guild and the knight, and then someone from the Night Dastard family or the Kartana Merchant Guild comes to investigate? I believe everyone will keep the secret. What if the Night Dastard family takes a few townspeople for questioning? Will the secret still be safe then? Who? You insane fool. Now the mill owner's face turned red. But a tanker did not stop. Now was the time to press him further. Look at this situation. You fools. Threats? Does that make any sense? We're dealing with nobility. Wake up. If we handle this wrong, we'll all die together. Silence and fear spread. A tanker's attitude made the townspeople realize the gravity of the situation. What we need to think about now is not how to intimidate them with our local militia, but how to appease them. Those who want to try force, go ahead. I won't take responsibility. Hey! You! You said earlier we should teach them a lesson? I'll call the local militia for you. Will you try? No. It was just a thought. Why this reaction, a tanker? You dared the mercenaries. Will you try? Village chief, it was just a thought. Why are you doing this? The townspeople all backed down. One of them, who had been quiet, raised a hand and asked cautiously. So what will you do? First, we need to hear what the knight wants. That's how we'll start the conversation. What does the knight want? Money, probably. Money? There's hardly any in the town. Think about it, Pra and Burren were already caught. Can't we settle it with that? Since those two caused the trouble, let them pay for it. I knew those guys were trouble from the start. The townspeople, who had many grievances, ruthlessly criticized the three young men. Their families were distraught but remained silent. The mercenaries didn't do much good either. One of them was enticed to flee. Right. If we negotiate well, maybe they won't have anything to say. Punishing Pra and Burren might settle things for both sides. A tanker burst into hollow laughter, then spoke. From now on, anyone who talks nonsense will be brought to negotiate with the knight and forced to repeat exactly what they said. Think carefully and speak out, Your Excellency Tilda. It's me who would negotiate with the knight, not you assholes. Stop spouting such nonsense. What? Settle it with the lives of those already captured? It's also our fault because a mercenary was involved? Try saying that yourself. I am sorry, village chief. When a tanker glared fiercely, the young man who spoke quickly shut his mouth. Although he was a powerful youth in the local militia, he was no match in front of the village chief. We'll hand over Pra and Burren. Any objections? I agree. I agree too. Yeah. These two were always useless in farming and always causing trouble. Maybe it's better for them to die now. The village chief maliciously belittled the two, as it would make it easier to hand them over. It would have been troublesome if later it was said that it was better to create a consensus. It was fortunate that the two were always worthless. I'm not sure how much silver to offer. If it's a horse good enough for a knight to ride, any amount wouldn't be strange. Village chief, let's hand these guys over too. Pra and Burren's families stiffened. Burren's father, the owner of the mill, shouted angrily. What are you talking about? Tun, a town hunter and also a member of the local militia, continued speaking, indifferent. He had a grudge against the miller who had always cheated him out of his wheat. Sir Knight won't just cut off those two. Obviously, he'll hold someone responsible. If we offer them first, it'll look better. We just need to tie them up and say it was their fault. There's no need to use the money of innocent town people. Tun's suggestion tempted the others. Handing over Pra and Buran's families could be justified as compensation with their properties. Most of their properties were in kind. The knight couldn't take everything, and it was not prestigious, so the remaining goods could be divided among the town people. Plus, if a place like the mill became vacant. It can't be done. Chapter 24.2. Why not? A tanker spoke harshly. Honestly, he wanted to sell these bastards and be done with it. As the village chief, it's my job to protect the town's people. The children of these people caused trouble and brought harm to the town, but they can pay it back by working in the future. It's one thing to hand over the two who caused trouble, but offering their families too, what would the feudal lords say? If it's discovered that a few serf families have disappeared, the administrator will ask what happened, and upon hearing the situation, will naturally hold the village chief responsible, not the knight. He couldn't be responsible for these worthless people. Moreover, the three families were wealthy farmers in this town. Whether liked or disliked, they were the ones who had joined hands with a tanker and supported him. If these people disappeared, a tanker's power in the town would be greatly weakened. Yes. Yes. I will definitely repay you. Please forgive me just this once. I will surely repay the damages my son has caused. Realizing the situation, they begged obsequiously. Seeing them like this, the townspeople could no longer say anything. It was not easy for them to continue advocating for the death of those they had lived with. Living and growing up in the same town in this world meant a much stronger relationship than what appeared on the surface. So, are you going to collect money? Silver coins are so valuable. Can't we just make those guys take responsibility? Wait and see. I will try to save as much silver as I can. A tanker pondered. Silver was the lifeblood of the town. He had to come up with a solution that involved tangible assets and would satisfy the knight. Johann was calculating, fully armed. Did growing up in a knight's family also influence one's character? Despite the dangerous situation, Johann was preparing calmly without breaking a sweat. The mercenaries were the ones who were flustered by this. Doesn't Sir Knight have any fear? Isn't he Sir Knight for a reason? No. Sir Knight is exceptional. Normally, everyone gets nervous before a fight. Knights usually felt nervous before going into battle. Some drank alcohol or gambled to relieve stress. Khan, having fought alongside knights, knew this well. Goran. Mr. Khan. What are your plans for the aftermath? My head is aching right now. I should have listened to Mr. Khan's words. That son of a bitch. Goran was grinding his teeth. He regretted not heeding Khan's advice, not expecting such a major mishap. It's not your fault. I didn't expect that guy to pull such a stunt either. The mercenaries were shocked by the news they heard. Gamson had conspired with some young men of the town and stolen the knight's horse and fled. The knight had captured 2 young men from the town and was waiting at the inn. Their employer, Eldons, stated firmly. As a result, they ended up facing the townspeople alongside the knight without any special bonus. It was something they should have done anyway. The town's 2 men were nearly beaten to death, it wouldn't have just passed. The only regret was not receiving the special bonus. Facing the townspeople was not so terrifying. There were many of them, but the townspeople, unless crazed, wouldn't attack a group that included a knight and merchants affiliated with the guild. The justification was on their side. What worried them more was what would happen after this incident was over. Gamson was, after all, affiliated with them. It was impossible for the knight to just overlook it. Goran, though experienced in his own right, was facing nobles for the first time. What should he say? Please loosen the ropes. I can't breathe. Shut up, you thieving scum. When Pra complained, one of the mercenaries kicked him roughly with his foot. Struck by the hard leather boots, Pra screamed. Already in pain from a broken bone due to a fall from a horse, his condition worsened without proper treatment. Do you think you'll? The people in the town. Yeah, what about the people in the town? Eh? Say it again. I can't hear you. Ah. Pra was experiencing firsthand the kind of people these mercenaries were. Mercenaries were generally rough and foul-tempered. Irritated by Gamson's antics and escape, they were quick to anger when some insignificant villager spoke up. Kicking was just the beginning, they burned wounds with the end of a torch and poured boiling water over them. The mercenaries were very creative and professional in tormenting others. Baran trembled and wet himself, watching this scene. He used to strut around the village with a bit of muscle and a well-off family, but now, that meant nothing in front of the mercenaries. Who? This guy is really getting on my nerves. Hey! Why are you playing innocent? Clench your teeth. Cough. After trampling over Pra, the mercenaries started on Baran. He stayed silent and motionless, but that didn't matter in such situations. Friends of troublemakers were also held responsible.